This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
As promised, we're now joined by the one and only Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. Segment is Ask Todd because this is your opportunity to ask Todd your questions about your estate plan or about a family member's estate plan. So, we got the phone lines open at 888-205-2263. That number again is 888-205-2263. Usually only enough time to get through 2 or 3 calls, so get calling to make sure your question gets heard by Todd. 888-205-2263. That number again is 888-205-2263. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah?
I just took on a new role, actually.
A new role?
It's a pretty senior position at Old McDonald's Farm.
Oh, yeah?
I'm the CIEIO.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a new role.
It's pretty exciting stuff for me. Todd, I want to talk to you a little bit about a comparison of life estates versus irrevocable trust. When it comes to, give me, I guess, pros of life estates versus irrevocable trusts first. What are the advantages that a life estate confers versus an irrevocable trust?
So when you compare the two, I mean, I'm ultimately going to lean towards there being almost no comparison.
I don't want to hear that right now.
I know. I'll give you the...
What's the good of the life estate relative to the irrevocable trust?
So if you have a life estate, right, and by the way, I'm going to explain it the way most people create it, because there's 2 ways to do it. But most people will create a life estate where they've taken their house and they've given it to the kids, and they've reserved the right to live there. Let's just say that. So if you're listening, folks, and you've done this, you know you've done it. You know who you are. So now you say, what have I done? What are the pros? He wants me to stick with the pros for a minute. The pros of doing that, which don't involve the irrevocable trust at all in this arrangement, you will have started a 5-year waiting period. And in 5 years, if it's on your house, please don't do a life estate on some other property like a rental or something.
Why?
Well, because if it's not your primary residence and you get sick and go to the nursing home, then the value associated with your life interest remains at risk for the nursing home. But if it's your primary residence, then the value associated with the life estate is not at risk because the primary residence is a special asset that if you check a box and say, I intend to return home, they'll make it non-countable. So it still has a value, same as if you did it with another building. But the difference is because it's this special asset, it will be non-countable when you're applying for Medicaid. Okay. So now we've got the life estate, and I know that I've started my 5-year waiting period. And in 5 years, I can feel comfortable that my entire house, not just the life estate, the entire house is protected from the cost of long-term care. Well, that's a pretty good thing, I would think. Second thing, the good news, if there is any, is it avoids probate. So when I die, right, when you die, if you have a life estate interest, the property just poof, magically goes away. And the remaindermen, the kids, will now be the 100% owner. Well, that's also helpful, I would think. And 3, and maybe this is the last benefit, is when you pass away, had you never sold the property, which is a whole nother problem, but we won't talk about that now. When I pass away, the full value, not just the value of the life estate, but the full value of the property will be pulled back in to my gross estate, not my probate estate, causing there to be a full step up in basis for capital gains tax purposes. So when the kids who now own the property because the life estate vanished on my death, they have it with a brand new basis equal to fair market value. So if they sell it shortly after my death, there would be no capital gains tax to be paid. So that also was a pretty good benefit.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from Cushing and Dolan. Still room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we are going to get to your questions with Todd. 888-205-2263 is the number. One more time, call Todd right now at 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Still a bit of room on the phone line, so if you got a question for Todd, 888-205-2263. Got room for one more if anyone's interested. 888-205-2263 is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions. We go now to John in Amesbury. John, what is your question for Todd Lutsky?
Okay, well, I have a home, and I have a camp in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
The home, I plan on selling, let's say, within the next 2 years, maybe longer.
Mm-hmm.
But the camp, I would like to put in a, irrevocable trust
Mm-hmm.
and give it to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a problem? Such in case anything happened and I needed to go into the nursing. Is there a problem with that? Because I imagine it is not considered my primary residence right now.
Mm-hmm.
But once I sell the house, I plan on moving into that.
Mm. So, a couple of questions. John, are you married?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would tell you first and foremost, one, yes, you can put the camp into an irrevocable trust. When I was discussing earlier the life estate, that was just how it works with a life estate for your home, right? I would just put the whole camp in. I would even put your whole home in and not reserve a life estate. You don't need to reserve a life estate. In fact, life estates are not something that I do very often. They're just done sometimes, right?
Okay.
Generally, you don't even need to reserve one. Just put the whole darn property, and I like that a whole lot better than doing a life estate at all. And so let's first talk a minute about your home. I mean, the home is a valuable asset. It's worth some money if you sell it. There's no reason not to put the home in if protecting either the home or the future money from the sale of the home from probate and taxes and nursing homes is on your mind, just like with the camp in New Hampshire. So both of those can go into an irrevocable trust. Depending on how much you're worth, we might need one for husband and one for wife, or we can just do one if the estate is under like $2 million. So that's the Massachusetts exemption amount. Now, why I say that is because a lot of people don't understand the irrevocable trust. And so they think I'm putting my house in the irrevocable trust and I can't sell it in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, whenever you want to sell it. That's incorrect. You can sell it anytime you want to sell it. In fact, you direct the sale, and the trust actually does the selling. So what would happen is the house would go out, and the money would come in, and we make these trusts grantor trusts for income tax purposes, so you still get your same capital gains exclusion associated with the sale of selling your primary residence. And that's why I asked you, if you're married, the first $500,000 of gain, not proceeds, gain, is tax-free, even if it's owned inside this irrevocable trust. So by putting it in, you start your 5-year waiting period, and even if you sell it 3 years from now down the road because you're ready to move up to New Hampshire and maybe move into the camp, no problem. The money is now in the trust, protected, and I think most importantly, what people don't realize is you did not reset that 5-year waiting period. So now the money that's in the trust will be protected in 2 more years. So if I sold it in 3, the money's protected in 2 more years. So wonderful flexibility for you. And then you move into the camp in New Hampshire, rather. And meanwhile, that's been sitting in the trust for 3 years, and 2 more years the camp will be protected. And then you can live in the camp, you can, run the camp, you can collect the revenue, the income from the camp, and live out your life. That's fine. And if you're in New Hampshire, you don't even have to worry about the Massachusetts estate tax at the time. So I think you're on the right track here, John. I would get some guidance. I think the irrevocable trust is the way to go for you and your family, and I think it's going to help you with not only taxes, probate, and protection from the nursing home, and lastly, get it to your family, I think, the way you want it to get there. You can control it even after you're gone. So, folks, great idea, John, on that one. I hope that helps a lot of people in their thinking, because that's an irrevocable trust discussion, but the guide we're giving away is all about life estates, right? And again, this is where people think a shortcut might be a better way to do the to do your estate planning, right? Oh, it's quicker, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's easier. I don't think it's any of those, quite frankly, but people do it. So if you've done a life estate and you want to really understand what you've did, get the guide. If you've not done a life estate and you're thinking of either giving away your house completely or setting up a life estate by giving it to your children, get the guide. And also it explains how to set up a life estate using a trust, which is better, or I should say less bad, than the first approach. There's tax issues, there's control issues. Get the guide, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, talking about taxes as it relates to the use of an irrevocable trust, how does an irrevocable trust impact income taxes on a yearly basis?
Yeah, and I think that's important because we kind of talked a little bit about that when John called, right? It was that idea of, well, I've got my house and I might not want to put it in the trust because I'm going to be selling it. Folks, no reason not to do that. And if one of the reasons you were thinking was taxes, that's incorrect, because these trusts are grantor trusts, which in English means you, mom and dads of the world, or Johns of the world, are the owner for income tax purposes. So what that means is the trusts are income tax neutral. Let me give you an example. Let's say we put into the trust, $1 million investment portfolio and a rental property. Well, that's going to be kicking out a lot of income. Rent, interest,
Sure.
dividends, right? Well, every year we're going to have to do something, right, from a tax perspective. And in fact, we're coming up on tax season, so everybody who's got one of these needs to think about this. All the income that is generated by that trust is going to be reported on a Form 1041. It's an income tax return. So I guess to answer your question, the only issue is with these trusts, you do have to file an extra return. That's about the biggest downside. Because there's zero tax due at the trust level, everything will just flow out and be picked up on your personal income tax return, and you pay the same tax.
What about when you die? And what I mean by that is normally person passes away, assets that are owned by them in after-tax accounts or assets that are, real estate, whatever it is, receives a step up in cost basis to the date of their passing. If an asset is owned by one of these irrevocable trusts, does that still happen?
And that is very important because a lot of assets that are in there have grown over time. Lots of times people do put their houses in that they might have bought 40 years ago, put that vacation property in that has really spiked in value. So very important that you get the step up. And many people, even accountants that read these, right off the bat, their first question is, oh, since it's an irrevocable trust, did you make a gift? Is it not going to be included in your estate? Are you not going to get this step up in basis?
Yeah.
The quick answer is these trusts are designed to cause the gift, to cause the transfer to be included in that you transfer to the trust is an incomplete gift for gift tax purposes, which means you don't have to file a gift tax return. And number two, because you've retained an income interest for life, the right to live there, the right to collect income interest, it's fully included in your gross estate, but not your probate estate. So you avoid the probate, but the inclusion allows the asset to get a full step up in basis, just like if you had died owning it in your own name.
Todd Lutsky, I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much for the time.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.